Welcome to the Positive Communication Show with your host, Matthew Cooper, where crisis meets communication. Join Matthew on the journey of skills, techniques, and wisdom on empowering your communication and enriching your relationships. Matthew has been a student and practitioner of self-help skills and crisis communications for over 20 years. He owns Positive Control Systems, a crisis communication and intervention business, and teaches these skills to parents, teenagers, and professionals. Here is your host, Matthew Cooper.
FM. Wanted to welcome everyone back. This is a fun show, well, hopefully fun, and I'm wanting to thank everyone who's been going to my Facebook page and liking me there and leaving any comments. For some reason, I'm thinking about 5 different things at once right now. My Positive Control Systems website, go ahead and check that out if you'd like. It talks a little more about what I do with my crisis intervention business. And if you also want to look at me on Facebook, go ahead. Matthew Cooper in Lehigh, Utah. Yes, that is me with the Positive Communication. So, for those of you that are coming back, awesome. Thank you. Those that are here first time, welcome. And I hope you enjoy this. Any questions you have, please go and leave a message for me or instant message me on Facebook. I'll be more than happy to answer any questions you may have. A little bit of a background on what I do and why I call it the Positive Communication Show. I work with troubled youth homes. My business, Positive Control Systems. We work with troubled youth homes across the U.S., also working with military law enforcement and also medical professionals. Okay, I have some of my facilities are working with high-functioning mental health, drug and alcohol rehab. We also have some that are working with adults as well that have been in some traumatic situations. Up in Alaska, I have a facility that works with adults. And all of these skills that I teach focus around being able to understand what it is you are communicating before you understand what the other person is communicating. The reason why I mention that is because you can understand what the other person is saying all day long. However, until you take control of your own communication, you're not going to change the way that you're interacting with the other person. Just because you know what they're doing doesn't mean that you're changing how you're interacting with them. And so I teach these different professionals. I do not work with the youth. I work directly with the professionals in being able to communicate both verbally as well as body language, understanding the different nuances of both of those, the words, how you're saying them, different presuppositional phrases you can use, understanding the different learning languages you're using, what they call the primary learning modalities is one of the names that we use from NLP for learning about how this person is processing information and how we can understand that. Also going into the body language, whether it's going to be the facial patterns of surprise or hunching their shoulders, hands up, flinching, or being able to have their hands balled into fists, their face red, getting ready to yell or scream obscenities, challenging authority. All of these things, we talk about them because they happen. We're dealing with teenagers a lot of times with my clients, and so understanding that it's not just teenagers will do this, adults will do this as well. The patterns are there and able to be recognized if you know what to look for. If you know what to look for. And so that is some of the primary stuff that I do teach. I also teach, because I have 2 different programs, one of which is called Positive Control Systems, the other one is called Informed Crisis Care. With the Positive Control System program, we use pain compliance. What is pain compliance? Pain compliance is if all other efforts have been exhausted and this individual is attempting to hurt someone or hurt themselves, then we will use a physical restraint technique to safely control them. Now, it is not comfortable. It is very effective, though. With these techniques, we do our best to make sure that neither the client nor the staff member is injured. It's really, really important that people understand this. I've seen some young people who've gotten out of some facilities, not necessarily saying my facilities, but other facilities that have used my program, and they've said, oh, it's abuse, it's mean, it's this, it's that. Okay, if your parents never disciplined you, and if you have never had anyone even tell you no, let alone slap your hand when you're trying to grab something hot or sharp or something like that, anything someone does to you is going to be considered abuse. That's what happens. And if someone is trying to attack someone with a knife or with a sharp pencil and trying to stab them with it, there's a little bit more leeway that you should have in being able to keep yourself safe. Look at the leeway that police officers have. I'm not saying my people are police officers by any means. I am saying that there is some leeway when someone is trying to cause you bodily injury. What legal justification do you have to protect yourself from assault? And that is what I'm teaching. I'm teaching them how to protect themselves as well as protecting their charges, their clients. Because all too often when these youth don't understand the job of the staff member is to keep them safe, they want to instead blame. Now, oftentimes in the facilities, these youth understand, oh yeah, I was trying to punch this guy in the face and this staff member stepped in and stopped me. Other staff members stopped the other youth because they were also going to attack me. They were going to kick me in the head, whatever was going to happen, which this is based on stories that I have heard. Because these skills teach them how to do this, the staff members how to control these youth when they are out of control physically trying to attack each other, it has to be effective. We've worked with gang units or facilities that have specialized in working with gang members, prior gang members. I was working down in California with a drug and alcohol rehab facility that was almost entirely staffed with former gang members. And so they really were excited about knowing these skills so they would be able to safely control some of the kids that they know how to fight on the streets. And these techniques really work very well. Now, the other side of the spectrum, because these are not always going to be violent children or violent youth, sometimes they're just misguided youth who have behavioral issues, but they're not violent. Okay. Then I have another program that is called the Informed Crisis Care Program. The Informed Crisis Care also teaches the defensive skills. However, instead of taking and using what we call pain compliance, instead they use no pain compliance whatsoever. Instead, there's a structural hold, control, being able to keep the person from moving without hurting themselves or someone else. And it works great when you have an individual who is not intent on hurting themselves or hurting someone else. If they're trying to get away, they're trying to struggle, they're trying to, whether, for example, there's a disease or a condition called PICUT. In the PICUT, they'll swallow things, everything from batteries to staples to coins, anything they can, and often it's very harmful. And if a staff member finds one of these, I want to call it a youth or one of their clients doing that, they need to be able to get them to the hospital. If this person is resisting, if their client is resisting, what do? Well, you need to be able to get them to the hospital. Well, if you're not able, based on your facility, able to use a pain compliance program, having a structural compliance program where you're able to still safely move the person if they're not super strong or not too big, is a great option. Now, the reason why I'm making that definition more concise with not too big and not too strong, when you're dealing with a 200, 250-pound young male who's 6'4", you don't want to try and just hold on because he's going to bounce you everywhere. You want to have a method of being able to control him using pain compliance so that as long as he resists, it's uncomfortable for him, he stops resisting, it becomes very comfortable. That's the difference. See, pain compliance is not something you'd see in a prison where you're get out and you're holding him and you're causing him pain and you're making him pay. That is not what this is about. No. Instead, it is about being able to understand the person, recognize where they're coming from, have compassion, and still maintain that safe distance for yourself and for them to keep them from injuring themselves or harming themselves if they have a contraband, whether they have drugs, whether they have a weapon that they've been able to create or make. All of these things are covered in my course, and then being able to make sure that you're staying as safe as possible and how you can deal with it in the best possible way. The goal of our programs, completely the goal, is to never use the physical aspects. It's only to focus on the verbal if possible. However, even though it's not always possible to do that, that is our goal. If it is needed, though, then we have these other skills to fall back to in the case of an emergency to be able to keep everyone safe. And that is, in a nutshell, what I do teach, and helping people to understand that is super, super critical. In working with some of these, shall we call them developmentally challenged individuals with some of our facilities, You have to be able to understand, okay, this is where they're at. You can't force them to try and understand where you are. You have to go to where they're at. You have to try and understand from their perspective and then be able to communicate with them on their level. I was reading a book by Richard Bandler, who's one of the fathers of NLP, and he talks about how we cannot see the world as it is. We can only see the world from where we are. And I want to say, okay, who was that? There's another person I was reading about recently, and it sounded like he had borrowed that from an older source. I'm not sure if it was from Plato or Socrates, or it might have been Epicurus, I think it was a Greek philosopher, or it might have been another, say, a Hindu philosopher or an Indian philosopher from way back. I only study a couple of things, so keeping track of it all is kind of a challenge at times. So with him borrowing that, it's wisdom. It's nothing new under the sun. He's not trying to recreate something. He's taking what has already worked and finding out, this is Richard Bandler I'm speaking of, and saying, hey, this works. I think I'm going to adopt it for my own. Great. That's great. What do they say? Plagiarism is the highest form of flattery? I mean, even though I'm not a favor of plagiarism because it does hurt people, it's hurt my business, having people plagiarize my material, claim it as their own, and then try and badmouth my business. Not cool. Not cool, people. Luckily, it's only happened that I know of with one instance where the gentleman has formed a competing business with mine. And yet, by understanding their perspective, understanding where they're at, okay, we can now hopefully be able to work with them and be able to find some sort of common ground. When we're working with these youth, when we're working with our coworkers, family members, spouse, clients, whoever it is, our partner, life partners even, what are we doing to work with them? How can we be able to communicate with them more effectively? Well, we're going to talk about some different ideas, thoughts, concepts, some of the things that I've noticed, especially with the dating scene. I'd like to share them with you. Tell me what you think. Go ahead, send me a message on Facebook, and I'll chat with you soon. Break coming up right now.
This is OTR FM, part of the IOM radio network.
Being a radio host on IOM FM allows you to build your show on a rich platform with the power of the internet to fulfill your outreach goals and connect with a very specialized and global online audience, unlimited by time and distance. OMTimes Radio will provide you with web relevance, a recognizable conscious brand, and with the standard of excellence that has accompanied every single OMTimes endeavor. Host your show with OMTimes Radio Network.
Circle of Hearts Radio is a sanctuary on the airwaves. Join me, Grandmother Elia, in the circle on Sunday, 2 p.m. Eastern as I share information to both enlighten and nourish your soul.
Do you want to be a better communicator? Do you want to better connect with the important people in your life? Do you want to enrich your relationships? If so, join me, Matthew Cooper, on the Positive Control System Show every Wednesday evening at 11 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time on OMTimes Radio. I'll meet you there.
Are you trying to get from point A to point B and need a little advice? Connect with the counselors at OMTimes Advisors. Whether you're looking for a life coach or a spiritual intuitive, the advisors participating at advisors.omtimes.com were carefully chosen based on their gifts, skills, and professionalism. OMTimes Advisors, connecting you with the best advisors in the business.
You're listening to OTR FM, part of the IOM radio network.
Before the break, I was mentioning, okay, there are some different things that we can do, especially I am in the dating scene. Yes, I'm a single man, been this way for the past 7 years or so. Had a few girlfriends, have not really had a life partner that I can find that really works with me. I was able to go see an old friend of mine today. He was an old mentor of mine, I'd say 10, 15 years ago. And he was up in the hospital in Salt Lake City, chatting with him. And he was really surprised. He says, why haven't you found a wife yet? I said, well, I haven't found one that really connects with me yet. And he says, you know, I'm still married to my wife. I said, yeah, that's what I understand. He says, you know why I don't divorce her? She's not really easy to live with. I understand that, I said. He said, because once you make this statement, and he was the longest I've known him, I've known him for over 20 years now. As long as I've known him, he really hasn't been a religious individual, and yet he said, this is what God wants, that when you choose to be together with someone, then you be together with them. Like, okay, I can respect that perspective. I can respect that because that's his belief. That's fine. What was interesting, though, is I've watched their relationship for a number of years and the challenges that he had. And, man, if he was open to learning a few of the things that I teach, I think he'd have a lot better relationship with his wife. However, let me back up a little bit. It also takes two to tango, okay? If he's wanting to have a wife and they're wanting to get along, well, then she has to choose to be his wife and she has to choose to get along too. They both have to work at this in order to make it work. It's not just one person, it's both of them. And both of them have such different personalities and they've learned to live with each other. Great. That's wonderful. They can do that. For the rest of us, when we're in our relationships, where do we draw the line? It seems that too often these days it is easy, super easy, to be able to choose to say, oh, you know what? I don't want to be in this relationship. Let's get a divorce. I think the overall United States is around 50% right now for divorces. You get divorced, get married, you expect to get divorced. Isn't that what they say? The leading cause of divorces is getting married. Anybody that wants to get divorced, you have to think really carefully about this. I know that when I got married my first time, that was my ex-wife's second time getting married. And then she got divorced again, and now she's married again, the third time, which we are hoping, at least I'm hoping, and for everyone else I'm sure it's in her life, is the third time's a charm. I'm only hoping that because I want the best for her. The reason why I say that is because I have children that she is the mother of, and I want her to be happy, and I want whoever that she's with to be a good person, and then they'll be able to treat my children well when they're with them. And the man that she just married, my understanding, is a really great guy, and that he treats my children really well. So that's why, you know what, I'm happy for her, and I wish her the best. I really do. Because I want the best for her, so that she'll be able to be great with my kids. I also want to find that right person. She was able to find him. They dated for 3 years before, maybe almost 4 years before they finally made the decision to get married. What I've noticed with so many people is that it's too easy to get divorced. It's too easy to break up. It's not easy enough to stay together because it's challenging, and a lot of times with this mindset of the most recent generation, once it starts to get a little hard, oh, I'm done. They back up, throw their hands up in the air, and walk away. I'm not saying all of the youth are like that. I'm not saying all the people are like that this next generation, but I am saying that mindset is coloring the way that we have relationships and interactions these days. And being in the dating scene, once I got out of my marriage, once my ex-wife left and we got divorced, that was such a challenge. Getting back in the dating scene after that, I was clueless. What's this internet, and what is a dating site? What do you mean a dating site? Why would you want to go on a dating site? How come you can't just meet the person? Internet dating, never heard of it. Because internet dating came along, I had to learn about that. What did I find? I found out that it is a chaotic mess. Some people say, oh, it's great. Yeah, online dating. It can be. It's usually for ladies. Oftentimes ladies, because they have about 3,000 guys that are messaging them every day. Maybe only 750 a day. However, usually we're talking hundreds, if not thousands, of men messaging this woman her first few days and continuing. Their account blows up with so many people's messages, they are not able to look at them all. It's a hassle. They're able to find a couple of good ones. Oh, this looks nice. Oh, I think I'll date him. And boom, no more need for this website. That's personally what I've heard happens a lot with ladies. Or they'll find a couple they think are nice, find out they're creepers, they'll give it a few more tries, maybe they're desperate, whatever, they really need to have somebody, really want to have someone. And if they don't find the person, fine. They'll then say, I'm not going to be part of it anymore, and then they're ignoring it. Either way, both of those are going to be equally detrimental to somebody that's trying to use this for dating. I know other people. That's great. That's a hookup site for them. Oh, they go over there, especially for bounce back relationships. Oh, it's great. Ladies say, oh, go on there, find a guy that looks cute. Great. Boom. Bounce back relationship, couple weeks with them, and then they find someone for real. They can spend those 2 weeks looking online for somebody they can really be with. Crazy. Not healthy at all, and crazy. So what can we do? What makes a difference if you're choosing to go out there and find someone and be with them? Well, first off, you have to find them. That's one of the biggest challenges I'm having. What can you do? Well, part of that can be finding ways to network, if you want to call it networking, being able to get out there and be around people. I think the first key should not be trying to find someone to go out and date, should be just being able to go out and learn to be around people. Can you start a conversation with someone? Do you know how? Simply to say, hey, how are you doing? My name is Matt, or my name is Joe, Bob, Sue, Eric, Sarah, whatever. I don't care what your name is. Go up and introduce yourself. Can you hold a conversation with that person comfortably for at least a minute or two? Or are you stumbling and stuttering? I like smoothies. You think I'm joking. I am not joking. I was chatting with some friends. I'd gone to a speed dating meetup group. If you're familiar with Meetup, go to meetup.com. They have all different kinds of get-togethers for people, all different age groups. It is not a speed dating website. No, meetup.com allows people from anywhere in the United States that I know of. If they have a group that's close by, you can find out where the closest group is. And you can have everything from a Bible study group to heathens to beer drinking to science fiction, geek fantasy to playing board games to dating to rock climbing, all these different groups that you can go and meet people. It's a great way to get out and do some social networking. And with that, it's awesome. With that, going out and finding some groups and just being social is a great way to get your foot back in the door. If you are out of a relationship and you want to get back and just be around people, give yourself some time after you've been out of a relationship or in a relationship for a significant period of time. Don't jump right back in. Okay, that relationship ended for a reason. Discover what that was. Don't just blame it on your partner. Do not do that. Instead of blaming on your other partner, focus on you. What did you do or what didn't you do? What caused problems in your relationship? And how could you have been a part of fixing it and not having that problem? When you are able to recognize that you are part of that problem, go through and figure out, okay, was I not communicating properly? Was I actually getting angry or frustrated when they weren't coming home? Was I trying to be too controlling? Was I not being controlling enough? Was I won't say controlling enough. Was I not being or paying attention to them? Was I not finding enough interest in them? What was it? Were we interested at first, then we drifted apart? What initially caused us to be interested in each other? And why didn't we stay together? Answer these questions. Ask these questions. Ask yourself the hard questions. Because when you can ask yourself these questions, you can learn from the answers. Hopefully you're going to answer these hard questions and be able to have them in your mind and bring them into your soul is how I look at it. You need to change what you're doing, improve, learn from your experience, and then bring that experience on to your next relationship. So this is what I would highly recommend when you do that. So learn what happened first. Then, when you feel you're ready to go out and start hanging around people, then go out and hang around people. If you're still in that mourning phase, if you're going through anger, frustration, and crying, which I've done plenty of. I've cried plenty. When you are finished going through it, you don't want to go through it when you're out with people. That really is a downer, okay? Really makes having fun very difficult to do when you're in that situation, okay? So when you're feeling better, feeling like you've been around people, go be around people. Do not try and date. If you try and date too early, you're not ready for it. They're going to feel the desperation coming off of you. Focus only on just hanging out with people. Just hang out, have fun, okay? There are so many different ways you can do that. Some ways you can do online. I prefer to be in person. Why? Because online is still so far separated that you can't truly be yourself. You can't. You can be partly yourself, but a lot of times it's too easy to put a fake face on, put a mask on of your internet persona rather than the real person persona. So get out, be there with people. Then when you're there with people, just talk to them. I've seen a couple of quotes on Facebook, which I really like that people are putting on that say well-mannered people are often confused with people that are flirting. Just by having good manners, greeting them, talking to them, looking them in the eye, hey, how you doing? It's often considered flirting. That's kind of sad, actually. Just being nice to someone is considered flirting. You can have conversations with people even if you're not attracted to them. As a matter of fact, that's one of the best ways to learn to communicate with people is finding the ones that you're not attracted to and just talking to them. Talk to them like a normal person. There was a gentleman that I was researching some of his information, bought some of his courses, learned about his different ways of communicating with people, especially communicating with ladies. And one of the things he said is if you really want to be able to talk to a beautiful woman, then find an unattractive woman and talk to her first. And the way that you treat that unattractive woman and talk to her, do the same with an attractive woman. Why? Because they're both people. Just because you're not attracted to her does not mean that you can't talk to her. And the same goes for if you are attracted to another woman, doesn't mean you can't talk to her either. Break is coming up in just a few moments. If you have any questions, go ahead and message me on Facebook. Back in just a moment.
You're listening to OTR FM, part of the IOM radio network.
Host your show on IOM FM, the radio network of OMTimes Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of OMTimes. Hosting a show on IOM FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community.
Hello, I'm Sandy Sedgbeer, host of the Inspired Parenting radio show, where every week we bring you empowering information from the diverse fields of conscious parenting, education, neuroscience, consciousness, health, and metaphysics to support you in nurturing the best in your children. So if you're interested in understanding what shapes your children's minds, spirits, and hearts, join me every Thursday at 4 p.m. Pacific Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, and prepare to be inspired.
Hello, I'm Miriam Knight of New Consciousness Review, inviting you to my new show where I interview the rising stars of the conscious awakening. We'll explore the many faces of consciousness in action and intriguing perspectives on life, the universe, and everything in between. Join us each Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern on the Rising Stars Show.
Have you ever wondered how to change your love paradigm? The secret key is finding a love partnership, not just a regular connection. How do you find these? Through conscious relationships. Ascending Hearts Dating is a dating site for people like you that believes in second chances and a different type of spiritual connection. Try Ascending Hearts for free today at ascendinghearts.com and change your love paradigm. Ascending Hearts, the premier dating community for the spiritually awake.
This is OTR FM, part of the IOM radio network.
Welcome back. This is Matthew Cooper with the Positive Communication Show on OTR.FM. Really quick, when they were talking about Ascending Hearts Radio, that works great provided that there is a large enough population of people around you that you'll be able to then have access to that. I looked at that. The challenge is nobody really around. In my area here, in the Salt Lake, in the Utah area, there's very few people that I found on OTR, or pardon me, on the Ascending Hearts. In other areas of the U.S., I'm sure there's a lot more people, and from what I've seen, it's a great way of being able to find out what their spirituality, what their idea of spirituality is, and then be able to connect you with someone. When you meet someone in person, that's why I really like the face-to-face stuff, okay? When you can meet someone face-to-face, you can figure out, who is this? What are they doing? What's going on? If you don't have a chance to look at them and see them in person, meet them face-to-face, it is really, really challenging to be able to have that connection. I personally like to have an initial meetup, talking to the person, maybe meet over a coffee, a tea, chai, something else, some sort of more adult beverage rather than just a soda or something, and make it very low pressure. Sit at a table and talk, sit outside if it's not cold, and just chat. Have no expectations whatsoever. This is for a date. First date, no expectations whatsoever. Don't go out for dinner. Don't go out for anything expensive. Why? Because you don't know if you want to invest with this person. I have made that mistake in the past. Had one lady, we had chatted over the internet. Oh, it sounded really cool. Sounds like a really nice lady. Oh, I want to meet you. Okay. Well, one of the first things is her picture that she had on the internet was nothing like the person that came and met me. It sounded like she was a serial moocher. Over and over and over, she would talk to these guys, get them interested because they looked like they had money. And then she would choose this restaurant that she really liked, and they'd go eat there. This happened to me. And I discovered pretty quick that, you know what, this is not somebody I'm interested in. This is not somebody I want to do this. And then she claims, oh, sorry, I left my wallet in my vehicle. Okay. Once I was able to be in that situation, I recognized, oh, all these different signs. This is somebody I never want to be around, and I got sucked in. And I'm hopefully going to learn from that for the future and not have to worry about it. However, these people, I don't care who you are, if you're wanting to date, there are people out there who will take advantage of your generosity, take advantage of you as a person. Please pay attention and be on guard for them. There are also other wonderful, beautiful people out there that will be able to make your life a wonderful addition, I should say, to your life. Hopefully your life is already wonderful and you are not wanting or needing someone to make your life wonderful. It's a challenge that many of us have had. I, in the past, went through that as well, where I wanted to have someone. I needed to have someone in order to be happy. As I learned more about myself, as I understood more of where I was at, I realized, oh, I need to be happy before I meet my partner, my life partner. Because if I am not happy first, how the heck can they make me happy? I have to be happy first. Okay? You've, I'm sure, heard couples talk about, oh, my better half is over here, or, oh, my other half. Why do you have to be a half? Why don't you, both of you, be whole? And together you become more than the sum of your parts. Rather than 1 and 1 equal 2, make it 3 or 5 or 20. I don't care. But be more. Don't be half of someone. Don't be less than a real person because you don't have one of these wonderful people in your life. Instead, focus on being able to understand that you are whole the way you are. You may not realize it, and yet you are whole the way you are. Find that happiness. Find that love of your own self inside, because until you find that love for yourself, until you truly love yourself, it is so much more difficult to truly open up and love another person. Because you have to love yourself first before you can truly open up and love someone else. And I'm speaking from experience. People can say, oh, that's not true. I love my spouse. Oh, great. All right. Happy for you. Congratulations. Do you love yourself? Oh, of course I do. And it's now taken as a challenge. Well, if you love your spouse, how are you treating them? "Oh, well, I treat them great." Okay. If they are not able to give me specifics and then talk to the spouse and say, all right, does this person love you? Are they treating you as well as they should? No. Oh, okay. Let's look at some more information. If it's one person's perspective, then maybe we need to look at both people and how they're interacting. Okay, that's why I say love yourself first. Be the best possible future partner you can be. And as you are working on yourself and being that better person, the people, the quality of people you meet will improve. You will get more picky. I am incredibly picky. You get more picky on what you're wanting because you've seen what you don't want. You've experienced it. You've been in a relationship with those people that you don't want for the future. That's not saying that they're not wonderful people. What I'm saying is that they are not right for you. It's a very, very important distinction. I notice that a lot of times when people have a relationship they're breaking off. I have an ex-girlfriend who, whenever she has a breakup with her boyfriend, and she's had lots of them, I understand. I didn't know this until after I broke up with her. She cuts off all ties. Oh, no, no. And listening to her talk about her old boyfriends, now I know what to look for. She blamed them for everything, didn't take any responsibility. And then afterwards, I was able to speak to some family members of hers that she doesn't talk to very often. And they said, hey, I don't usually reach out, but this is what's going on. And you're just one in a long line of suckers. What? What happened? And she explained some more. And now, boom. Okay. She talked with this guy. That's the reason why. Oh, and that guy. Oh, she was always blaming someone else rather than working on her own internal issues. And because of that, because it was always somebody else's fault, she wasn't able to truly find where she was at and find her center, her core. Wonderful lady, and yet not for me. I honestly hope that she can be happy as well. But she would, as I was mentioning, she would cut off all connection with the previous boyfriend, and that becomes kind of tough. I mean, you've cut off so many people. Where do you go? What do you do? Who do you connect with now? While I have remained at least arm's distance friends with a number of my ex-girlfriends. Why? Because I don't want to destroy relationships. They may not have been right for me. However, it doesn't say anything about them as a person other than they weren't right for me. I wish them also all the happiness in the world. Because to be happy, it comes from inside first. And unless you're happy with you, you are never going to be happy with somebody else. You're always, if you do get into a relationship with someone, you will be reliant upon them for your happiness. This is one of the challenges I had when I was married and when I've had other girlfriends. Not all of them, but most of they have an issue where they need, not want, need someone else to tell them they're beautiful, to feel beautiful. That was one thing I noticed with my ex-wife. If I tell them, hey, you look great today, or you're doing this, you look beautiful, okay, they'll feel good for a moment, and then they'll start feeling unbeautiful later. And they have to have somebody else constantly filling that beauty cup, their cup of beauty, and if it tips over, oh no, I'm not beautiful anymore, and then it has to be filled up again by somebody else. When I mentioned loving yourself, it's also learning to tell yourself you're beautiful. Love yourself. Truly love yourself. You're beautiful. You're wonderful. You're creative. You're intelligent. You need to understand this for yourself. And when somebody else tells you, it's a reaffirmation of how awesome you already are, rather than the food or the sustenance you require just to keep on existing. It should be, if you will, the icing on the cake. It should be the cherry on top. It should not be that which you have to have to survive. It should not be your meat and drink and your food, because you have already fed your soul. You have told yourself and you have taught yourself, I love myself. And when you truly love yourself, you can truly be able to connect with yourself and believe it. Oh, it's a beautiful thing. A very simple exercise to work on this. And this is tough, especially if you don't truly love yourself. This can be really, really tough and an emotional experience. It's very simple to do, though. Here's what you do. You stand in front of a mirror. I like to use my bathroom mirror. It's large. I can see myself very easily. I will lean in and get my face about 6 inches or so away from the mirror. I will look myself right in the eye. And I will say, I love myself. And then I'll say, I love myself. I love myself over and over and over, telling myself in the mirror, I love myself. You can say, I love you. Go for it. I love myself. This is the phrase that I was reading about in another book. Love yourself like it's, let's see, how do they put that? What was the name of that book? Love yourself like your life depends on it. Yes. Good book. Good book. And so by saying I love myself, and I'm sure other people have talked about that, other psychologists, et cetera, other learned individuals, by making sure that you love yourself and telling yourself that. Do it for 5 minutes. Set an alarm beforehand, put it on, and stick to it. Do not look away. Don't break eye contact. Make sure you focus on looking at yourself. If you do anything, look at your face. Do not look away. Do not turn away from yourself when you're saying, I love myself. None of us, though some may think they are, none of us are the most beautiful people in the world. We all have our flaws, and yet we also have that which is beautiful about us. By learning to love ourselves for who we are and how we are able to then feel that deeper connection with our soul. When we have that connection, it doesn't matter what anyone says to us. We already know that we are loved. We know we are beautiful. We know we are an awesome person. This is super important that everyone learn to have this. Would we have conflicts? Would we have anger? Would we have people yelling and screaming and fighting in the streets? Killing people over a religion or a belief that my God's better than yours? I'll show you. I have a gun. I'm going to put it in your face and say mine is better. Would you truly do that if you loved yourself? And you loved other people? If you would, then I don't really know if that's the kind of God I'd want to be worshiping. But that's just me. Love yourself. Nobody else will love you as much as you love you. Be back in just a few moments, right after the break.
You're listening to OTR FM, part of the IOM Radio Network.
Being a radio host on IOM FM allows you to build your show on a rich platform with the power of the internet to fulfill your outreach goals and connect with a very specialized and global online audience, unlimited by time and distance. OMTimes Radio will provide you with web relevance, a recognizable conscious brand, and with the standard of excellence that has accompanied every single OMTimes endeavor. Host your show with OMTimes Radio Network.
Do you have time to read that inspiring book or that blog post you've been meaning to get to? In your busy world, how do you improve yourself and keep your life going? I'm Lisa Kay, and my Between Heaven and Earth radio show can transform your life just by listening. Be uplifted with inspiring topics, positive stories, and ideas that really work. Between Heaven and Earth Radio is conscious living for your soul, every Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time.
Matt Connerton here. Join Jen Coffey and I twice a week for Matt Connerton Unleashed, a political talk show that's a little different than what you're used to. No liberal or conservative agenda here, just an honest dialogue about truth and how things really work in the world of politics. Matt Connerton Unleashed, every Tuesday and Thursday night at 11 p.m. Eastern on OMTimes Radio.
The number one reason girls drop out of school in sub-Saharan Africa is lack of access to feminine hygiene products. The Pads for Schoolgirls Project, an outreach of Humanity Healing International, is changing this paradigm by setting up sewing programs at schools, teaching girls a vocational skill, while producing the reusable pads that help keep them attending classes. The girls pay it forward by making and giving pad kits to other girls in need. To learn more, visit humanityhealing.org. Humanity Healing is where your heart is.
This is OTR FM, part of the IOM Radio Network.
Welcome back. This is Matthew Cooper with the Positive Communication Show on OTR.FM. This is the last section of this show this evening. We were just speaking about, right before the break about loving yourself and how no one else can love you the way that you love yourself. No one. And if you truly loved yourself and everyone else truly loved themselves, we wouldn't have the conflicts we have today. We wouldn't have parents beating their children and abusing them in horrible ways. We wouldn't have countries and religious groups saying, my God's better than yours and I'm going to blow you up to show it. We wouldn't have that. We wouldn't have people fighting to prove their point. We wouldn't have people trolling others and inspiring them to go and kill themselves on the internet. I understand these kids can be quite cruel on the internet to other school-aged children and can push them, cajole them, force them in many ways mentally into a breakdown state where they then sometimes commit suicide. It's not nice. Would bullies even exist if everyone loved themselves? And I say to you, no. The bullies would not exist. Love would prevail. People talk about how love is so important. I agree. Love is great. Loving yourself first and foremost, and then everyone else, you can love them too. However, I'm also a realist. Though I recognize that love is so important. It is. And loving yourself is the first step in being able to spread your love to the world. If you try and spread the love to the world before you love yourself, well, you've just opened up a big can of worms. It makes it much more difficult because now you are fighting with yourself as you are trying to love other people. And yet you're not even showing your own family or your own self the same love and attention that you're giving to other people. So it creates a dichotomy. Now there's a separation, okay? You have chosen one direction with your body language and your mental communication language versus how you're treating someone else. So there's that congruence is not there between both of those, okay? So making sure that you are congruent, both of them are working together, making sure your words and your actions for yourself and for the outside world are together. People can tell. People can tell when you have that, if you want to call it that truth that you're now speaking rather than just recycling somebody else's truth. Okay? So because of that, loving yourself, it would make a huge difference. Now when you're trying to love other people, you're sharing that love. Great. Well, like I said, I'm a realist. I understand that I can love other people. However, I don't expect them to have that same love for others and for me. This is the reason why I have been training and continue to train and will continue to train in my martial skills, in my self-defense skills, in my combative skills. The reason why is because when I love other people, sometimes stopping their actions is a sign of love as well. I believe it was the Dalai Lama was asked if there should ever be a time when we should go to war. And the person that was asking this, it was expecting the Dalai Lama to say, no, there is never a time that we should ever go to war. And the Dalai Lama said, yes, there is. What? Yes, there is. When the person or the group that is going to war, when they are hurting themselves more by going to war than the other people that they are inflicting this pain, this war on, that is when we need to step in and to stop them. Because they are hurting themselves more than they are hurting the others. What an incredibly insightful man. Coming from a perspective of love in your daily life, in your acceptance of yourself and others, and loving everyone, it does not mean that you are agreeing with them. It means you're accepting, you're loving, and you're allowing them to be who they are. If they choose to then attempt to hurt others, then I can step in. If that hurting others is myself and it's going to be damaging to them to do so, and they could possibly go to jail, all right, well, guess what? I'm willing to step in and to stop their actions because I love myself enough that I choose not to allow it to happen. I also love my children, and I love other friends and people around me enough that I'm willing to step in and stop the other person's actions if they are doing those things which are going to be so damaging. different perspective now. It's no longer, I'm going to fight them because they're wrong and this. They're going to hurt people, so I have to step up. That's a very different perspective. When I mentioned that I love myself enough that I choose to stop their actions. Okay? Very different perspective, because I had to find peace within myself. I didn't always have this perspective. As I've gotten older, as I've learned more, as I've become, from my own personal, of course, perspective, more wise, as I have learned this wisdom, as I have been exposed to it and eventually incorporated it into my lifestyle, that has changed the way that I choose to interact with people around me. It has changed my own perspective on how I want to have the world respond to me. As Mahatma Gandhi says, well, paraphrasing what he said in the past, we must become the change we want to see in the world. We must become the change. How do we become the change unless we are doing something about it? Change is action. You're looking at chemical change. It is action. Something is happening. Whether it's going to be physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, something is happening. And unless we do something, we will not change. We will not change where we're at. We will not change how we're interacting with other people. We will not change how our love is being shared with the world until we choose to change ourselves. You can't change someone else. You can change yourself. That's also a very big lesson in my life. Being a father to 5 children, 4 of which are teenagers. How's that for fun? Oh, yeah. Wow, that's interesting. And wanting to, when I was younger, wanting to change them and make sure they did what they were supposed to. That was a big push for me, because that's how I was raised. My parents did the same thing to me. And yet learning that forcing someone is not changing them. They may be cowed, they may be humiliated, humbled, whatever you want to call it. They may bow in the face of a superior power, a stronger opponent, but they are not making the choice voluntarily. It's under duress. Whereas being able to, instead of trying to force them, by accepting them first, allowing them to be the person who they are, and then guiding them. Guiding, yes. Guiding them, and sometimes that guidance may not be as fun for them. Okay. However, it's not relying on force to say, do as I say, not as I do, which is how it seemed when I was younger. And as I was a younger parent, I used to do it that way. Not appropriate. Quit yelling at people. Smack. Don't hit people. Okay. Not smart, not cool. But so many people do it. Come on. Instead, learning to say, all right, that wasn't the best way. How can I improve? What wisdoms can I draw from this experience that I can apply next time? Not being afraid of being wrong. Choosing to say I'm sorry rather than seeing it as a dirty word that I cannot say. I must not say the S word. What word's that? Sorry. Okay. Choosing to constantly be saying I'm sorry is also not good. However, being able to at least say it and mean it without being prompted too heavily is a good idea. To me, it's helped me to stay humble and realize, okay, was I wrong about this? If I was wrong. Okay. If I wasn't, fine. In the past, I also took responsibility for everyone's actions, and I would even apologize when it wasn't me. I found it with a previous girlfriend, I would apologize for my children's actions when it wasn't me doing it because of the fit that I found, and yes, I'm using that word deliberately, the fit that she was having over the situation. She did not calm down until I took responsibility for their actions and apologized to her for them. It was not healthy. So do not apologize for other people. Let them be responsible for their own actions. Let them be culpable. Let them be reliant or liable, I should say, rather than liable for their own actions, and they now have the responsibility. Okay? Let them be relied on for their own responsibility rather than you being forced to have it instead. Because, as I mentioned with Mahatma Gandhi, paraphrasing his words, we must become the change we want to see in the world. What changes that you want to see? If it's change within yourself, then you need to step forward first. If it's change in someone else, you can be an example to them rather than a force to shape them. You cannot be that force to shape them if you're using anger and negative emotions. Instead, choosing to make the changes for yourself, choosing to be that example of, if you want to call it right doing, or a better way, a better direction in life, that is priceless. Absolutely priceless. And seeing my children over the years make their choices and watching as they get older and how they are making choices and communicating with people, communicating with friends, counseling friends. When it comes back to me, I hear that they were counseling a friend on some of the same things that I've been teaching them. Wow! They are learning to do these great things that I didn't have to beat it into them. Why? Because that is not the answer. Learning to have that peaceful mindset, we can be an example, is what changes the world. But we need to be the ones that are being the example. We cannot expect somebody else. We're the ones. Because we are awesome. Believe it. Love yourself. You can do this.